All right, folks, how you doing? WrestleTrueResults303.com. Check out the website. Link in the description box. Mind, body, spirit, fitness, putting the healing back in health. Sorry, I just brushed my teeth. There might be some gunk on there. So, coming at you today with a video on the voice of God, communicating with God. Has He been communicating with you? Unfortunately, you just don't realize that He's talking to you. And as I look back and look at my life, I see a lot of areas where He might have been trying to communicate with me, but unfortunately, with being younger and the dumb things that you do, whether it's partying, going taking sports too seriously, whatever the case may be, we don't fully recognize when God is talking to us. And there could be other times as well when He's talking to us that we don't understand. That's what I'll start with. Maybe it's just peace of mind. Do you feel at peace at the moment? Have you done something maybe that makes you feel really calm and good? Something for yourself, helping others and things like that. That peace of mind, I think, is really a sign from God that you're doing something right. If you actually feel good about it and you can honestly think to yourself, there is no reason to feel guilty for what you had just done. I think that's a way that God speaks to you with that, giving you that calmness and peace, kind of well done, good and faithful servant type thing. And then guilt. I did one call a video called Catholic Guilt. Is it real or not? Check that video out. And I think it's a thing as well. I know that's something that I dealt with a lot. Guilt, and it's usually just because you're not living up to the standards, right? You're not living up to your standards, and if you're not living up to your standards, you're definitely not living up to God's standards. So I think that's another way of God letting you know that you're doing something wrong. Next is going to be, I know when you're young and dumb, I've experienced quite a few of these. You escape death for some weird reason. I know when I was with my buddies, we were younger, up in the mountains, and we were partying, and then it was the following day we were driving home, and we're on this little 2-lane road in the mountains coming down. I'm driving, doing some dumb stuff, and we're spinning out of control on this little 2-way mountain, trying to control it. Next thing you know, we end up in our lane. If you're going down the mountain, of course, you're on the outside lane, right by the edge. There was a guardrail still, but I start spinning out of control. Car's spinning everywhere. Next thing you know, we land. I'm in my lane, facing the wrong way, and my car is like an inch away from the guardrail. Somehow, we survived without a scratch. And I think, when we're able to survive these, if you can look back at life and say, I should have probably died right there. I think that's God's way of saying, hey, man, what are you doing? We've got some good things going. I've got some good things planned for you. And unfortunately, right now, you're just messing it up. You're messing it up. Next is going to be prayer. This is one that a lot of people struggle with, and our priest talks about it a lot. That we as Christians, he says we as Christians, but I'd like to say more of just we as a people, like to talk. Blah, 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 blah. We're just chatting away, chatting away. Nobody wants to listen. And our priest always says, sometimes you need to shut up. God wants to talk to you. And if you're too busy talking, God is not going to be able to talk to you. You're not going to be able to hear the voice of God. And, I've experienced this when I first really started trying to become spiritual and I hadn't went back to the church and I was trying to be more of like just meditation, even though Christian meditation, same thing. But, and I was laying in bed and I swore I heard the voice of God. And I'm sitting there just trying to calm my mind. And I could have partially fell asleep. Sometimes they say even when you go into those meditative states, you do. And that's a good thing because it calms the brain down, puts your brain pattern, your brain waves in a different, a different category. Theta, maybe. I can't remember, theta brain waves. I can't remember if that's correct. So, but whatever. And I swore I heard the voice of God, and it just said, I am here. That's all I heard. I am here. And I jumped up real quick, and I was like, what the heck? I told my buddy about it, and he's like, it's just because we used to party too much, and, you're hearing stuff, and whatever. But, I think we've got to realize too, sometimes prayer is not going to be an instant gratification thing. Sometimes, at least, if you're able to pray and meditate and clear your mind out, you're able to free your mind and your brain and your subconscious up to go ahead and release these other thoughts. Once you've decluttered the mind, now these other thoughts that you've had and subconscious thoughts can come to the surface. So sometimes you're not going to get instant gratification from that prayer or that meditation, but you need it to declutter the mind and let the real important stuff come to surface. So even if you're at a prayer of nothing happens, God is still working His magic with inside of you. So don't worry about it. And the last one, this is one where I actually started to think about it, and it clicked into my mind because somebody posted it on Facebook the other day, and my buddy showed me. I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore, so he showed it to me. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Belly. The movie Belly. It's a gangster movie with DMX, Nas, Method Man, T-Boz, some other people I'm probably forgetting, but it's a story about gangsters in the beginning, and then they start selling drugs and stuff. But then at the end, DMX ends up getting arrested, and then they sent him in as like a plant to infiltrate this spiritual leader's life, and then at the end he's supposed to assassinate the spiritual leader. So DMX takes a whole twist and turn and becomes this spiritual guy, really down to earth, very spiritual, very kind, just that whole path that anybody watching this video is probably on right now. And then at the end he doesn't kill that guy. And the thing about that movie is that movie came, I don't know when it came out, but we watched that movie when I was probably like 19 partying at this chick's house. And we watched that movie in that 3-day weekend probably like 6 times. And all my friends were like, oh, that gangster scene in the beginning. They're going through the club, they rob this strip club or whatever, and then, they really enjoyed the gangster part of the movie. But for me, what really touched me was DMX's spiritual path and that change. At the time, it never clicked because everyone else in the room, the other 4 or 5 dudes, like, oh, this gangster stuff's so tight. And for me, it was the spiritual aspect that really touched me and made me like the movie. I didn't really care about the gangster part. I mean, it was cool, don't get me wrong. We like shooting and guns and this and that. But the part that really touched me deep down was that spiritual aspect of the movie. And once again, that's God talking to me, I feel, at the age of 19, 20 years old. And I just wasn't listening because we're too busy partying, and you kind of put it on the back burner, especially when everyone else around you thinks more of the gangster aspect of the movie versus that spiritual side. So there's just some food for thought, when God is really trying to talk to us, and unfortunately we're not letting him in because, I guess you could say like Pharaoh, because of the hardness of your heart, right? And we've got to be able to unharden and open up that heart. And in whatever case it may be, it's, talking to someone that you've had issues with, talking with your family, talking to yourself. Self-mastery is what's going to really help you on this journey of life and this journey of spirituality. Helping your community, helping others. That's what it's truly about. So once again, I hope this helps. Subscribe to the channel, share and like these videos.